Hey, what's up guys? We got some more Resident Evil 4 Remake leaks to cover today. Did you miss them? I know I did. Some people hate these fucking leaks, bro. I swear. But yeah, I was gone for a while, guys. Forgive me. I was sick for 2 weeks. COVID or not, I don't know. The world may never know. 4,000 licks to the center of a Tootsie Pop. Who fucking knows?
Let's find out. 1, 2, 3.
I also went to Las Vegas, so yeah, that was pretty awesome. Let me know if you guys went to Vegas before and what's your craziest experience in Vegas. Man, that place is insane. But yeah, either way, these leaks are not brand freaking spanking new. They're about a week or two old now. I'm just a little bit late to the party. I'm kind of been out of tune lately, you know. But I do want to talk about these leaks with you guys because I have some interesting things I want to point out to bring into the light from my perspective that'll make these leaks way more believable and just make them way more interesting in my opinion. So yeah, I want to talk about that with you guys today in this video. And also guys, we're almost at 1,000 freaking subscribers. Come on, all these new viewers hopping on right now, please subscribe. We need to get to 1,000 ASAP. I'm tired of waiting. If you enjoyed the video, please like and subscribe to this video. You won't regret it. But anyways, let's just jump right into it, bros. Now, one of the interesting things I noticed when I watched the Resident Evil 4 Remake trailer is the whole general look of the chainsaw guy. The first thing I noticed was his eyes were like so far apart, and even some people said it like reminded him of like some kind of stuffed animal, like the whole eyes and like the small eyes being so far apart and so simple looking reminded them of like a stuffed animal or like a bear or something, you know? That's pretty hilarious. But I looked closely and I talked about this in my other videos, how like there's just something not right about the separation of the eyes. There's something going on there, and it reminded me a lot of the leaks we got in the past that talked about him actually mutating more and more every time you encountered him. And the more I looked closely at his eyes and just the overall like scene behind the mask, it did appear to look that way. Now, to make this idea sound more credible, the new leak states that the reason the chainsaw guy looks this way is because there's actually a parasite beneath the mask that is split into two, and it is overly exposed, so it has to conceal itself also from the light because apparently it is very sensitive to the light and it only comes out in the dark. Now, this is actually very interesting because when you kill a Ganado and the parasite splurges out of the neck, if you look closely, it is also kind of split into two in a way, and it like gushes around and it's kind of wavy. Also remember, if you throw a flashbang, it automatically kills any exposed parasite on the site. So that actually makes a lot of sense. The whole idea of Dr. Salvador mutating every time you encounter him does appear to seem more likely with this concept in mind, and the new leak also brings that up that this is going to be the case. The leak also states that we've only seen about 10% of what the actual game has to provide, which I assume is a realistic point of view, considering that that's what literally trailers are for. They're not meant to show everything, they're just meant to give you a glimpse of what's to come. So yeah, I'm hoping this stays this way as well, because I want to be fully invested, indulged, and surprised when I play the remake. One of the examples of this 10% and the rest not being shown yet is of course the Hookman being in the dungeon of the castle, and that whole scenario is literally being hidden and not going to be exposed. It's going to be a complete surprise apparently. But yeah, if you do not know who Hookman is, I've talked about him on my channel so many times already. If you do not know who Hookman is, you're literally living under a freaking rock. The next leak states that even though Ashley has no knowledge of weaponry and she does not know how to use a gun or aim correctly, it's still bearable to play, and it's not that like annoying or like challenging to play as her apparently. Apparently the scene also in the trailer where Ashley is shown holding a gun with shaky hand movement and it somewhat looks infected. It's also worth noting that in this point in the game in the story, Ashley's having trouble having control of her body and the Plaga is starting to take over, and Sadler is kind of trying to use that to kill Leon. So there's a few scenarios where Ashley's trying to kill Leon and she loses control, but eventually she recovers and gets complete control back of her body. I find this easy to believe because I feel like the whole story and the narrative is taking a more serious and dramatic tone, so the Plaga having control of Ashley and then backfiring and causing some really bad incidents where Leon almost gets killed by Ashley just makes the whole game more dramatic and the whole Plaga infection like way more crazy than it already is. So yeah, that's something I also mentioned that I wanted to see, some more struggles and some more, you know, like just overall like difficulties that the Plaga is causing between the bond between Ashley and Leon. So I do believe this leak also. The next leak also states that the beginning intro scene with the police officers is now different from the original. In the original, you pull up with two police officers. They decide to wait in the car because they don't want to get parking tickets.
We'll stay and watch the car. Don't want to get any parking tickets.
Which encourages Leon to go explore on his own. And eventually, in the end, Karma turns around and bites the police officers in the ass for being terrible police officers. Now, in the remake, it is different. So one police officer will get off to go explore. Then the second police officer will soon go after when he notices something isn't right. Then Leon still waiting in the car. An hour goes by. Leon gets impatient and says something isn't right. I'm frustrated waiting. So he gets off then to go pursue and look after the two missing police officers, which then, you know, changes the whole intro of the game. This does make sense, and there is proof for this. The first proof for this is in the gameplay trailer. You'll notice that one of the police officers is in the first house, which was not in the original. Second, in the walking scene where Leon is headed to the first house, he says specifically, how far could they have gone, implying the two police officers that's been missing for some time now.
How far could he have gone?
A scene from the original intro that could elaborate and explain this further is in the original, one of the police officers gets off to take a piss and he notices something strange in the background, like something happens in the background, and he kind of looks around and says, must have been my imagination. They might make a twist on that, and maybe this time around one of the police officers goes off to pee and he gets swapped up by a villager or like kidnapped, right? That encourages the second police officer to go look after him. And then eventually Leon gets off to look after the two police officers, and that's what encourages him to say how far could they have gone, and that's what encourages him to eventually find the first house. Because in the remake, they don't exactly pull up to the first house like in the original. He stumbles across it looking for the two police officers. So yeah.
How far could he have gone?
Next up, the Novicidors are still in the game and will not be cut, which were some leaks pointed out back then. And I'm actually happy with this decision. You know, I actually like them, and I think they will look absolutely terrific in the remake, in the new engine. And apparently they'll be very similar to RE1's Chimeras. Moving along to the island segment of RE4 Remake, the leak suggests that the soldiers, the Ganados from the island, are a little bit more mutated and kind of similar to the Soldats from Village, opposed to being generic action-packed zombies like the original. I think this does make sense because one of the original problems with the RE4 island, the original, was it was too action-packed. So switching up the Ganados to be more mutated and similar to the Soldats from Village, not exactly the same as the Soldats, but you know, somewhat similar, but not as exaggerated as them, you know, will create a more horror tone on the island, which will fix the problems that the original RE4 had. So yeah, not to mention that the island is being transformed more entirely into a lab segment, so you know, the mutated Ganados being more mutated and like similar to Soldats will definitely make more sense for the remake. As far as new enemies and locations are, you know, concerned, there wasn't really much to say other than, you know, the originals are still there but just improved. So original locations and enemies are still there but they're improved upon, you know. And he basically said that the island segment of the game got the most rework, so they did a lot of focus and changing and switching up there. I mean, that does make sense. Like I said earlier, that was the original kind of like problem with the original RE4 was the island. Everybody complains about the island, so that got the most rework. We also have some good news regarding our friend Krauser, and I've always said Krauser will never be cut from the remake as he's the sole reason that RE4 even exists, you know, the whole Ashley being captured situation. So yeah, he is now getting reworked, he's getting more backstory, and he's getting properly introduced into the remake, which it makes total sense. In the original, he just came up out of nowhere, had no backstory, and it was just so random. You know, we didn't even get like background information from him until Dark Side Chronicles came out a few years later, and even then that game wasn't even like expanded to every console. It was only on the Wii, so not a lot of people played it. Almost nobody, all the people didn't play it or even find out or know what the hell is going on with Krauser. So yeah, so this time around it will be properly introduced and explained. Last but not least, we're touching upon the Gyarados, and apparently their design and models are being reworked as well, and they will operate similar to the Sturm from Village. You know, he just kind of blindly attacks you from all angles. So yeah, that's all the info we have from the leak so far. There's a few more things that we need to talk about as well, but I'm going to save that for another video, guys. But yeah, overall these leaks do sound pretty realistic in my opinion and believable, and they do make sense, which is why I wanted to talk about them and also, you know, bring them into light from my point of view and tie them into some other things that I talked about and knew to make better connections of these leaks and make them more understandable from my point of view to you. Yeah, but anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Let's get to 1,000 subs, guys. You know, it's been too long. We got to get there this year. Let's do it, baby. If you enjoyed the video, subscribe and like, and I'm out.